If I was to ask you, if you had a chance right now to start your business completely over, and you could take all of your clients and you could just toss them or ditch them, and you had to start over and you had to bring in brand new clients, how many former clients would you bring into your fold? And how many of you would say, no way, Jose, I want a whole different type of client? Well, I want to talk with you a little bit today about the perfect client, okay? And I'm going to give you some things to process, okay? And here's what you have to know. What you have to know is that the people you work with have more power over you than you think, okay? The people that you work with have more power over you than you think. Now, we get into this business and we're like, okay, we are, we're the big entrepreneur, or we're the coach, or whatever it is that you do. And you're going to be paying, or these people are going to be paying you to work with them. And so you would sort of think that you have all the power and all the control. And what you find out very quickly is that's not the case. So many of us are leaving the 9-to-5 world to become, entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, and we're wanting to live the laptop lifestyle. And some of you, the reason why you're wanting to leave the laptop lifestyle is because you're wanting to get rid of your boss. You're wanting to fire your boss. You're wanting to be your own boss. Well, here's what happens is if you don't get the perfect client, then what you do is you end up having all sorts of bosses. Everybody that you work with believes that they are your boss. I mean, after all, they're paying you, right? And so if they're paying you, they obviously have the right to tell you what to do. Well, that's not a very good place to be in. And I want to tell you here that the whole concept of that you are your own boss is sort of a myth if you don't have the right client, because the people you work with have more power over you than you think. Now, here's how it negatively impacts you. If you get the wrong client, okay, and they begin draining you, okay, they begin, just sort of sucking the life out of you. We'll show you that in just a little bit. You bring those problems home with you. And for those of you who work from home, you can't get away from it. See, those of you working 9-to-5, many of you can just sort of leave your problems at the office, and when you show up at home, you can just sort of be present. But when you work from home, that is your office, and those problems have a tendency to marinate with you all day and all night, and you're going to take it out on your significant other, you're going to take it out on your kids, it's going to have a tendency to be negative, Nelly on your mind, your energy is going to be drained, you're just not going to be present, and you're like, oh my gosh, these people have more power over me than what I thought. And you're absolutely right, they do. So I want you to know, be very cautious in selecting your clients, because they will have more power over you than you think. Let's talk a little bit about the not so perfect client just for a minute. Okay, we're going to be talking today about the perfect client. I've got a giveaway for you. Also today, I've got a little worksheet I'm going to give you on how to get the perfect client. But here's what the not so perfect client does. The not so perfect client drains you. How many of you can participate with me today in the chat room? How many of you have ever worked with somebody and literally they exhaust you? I'm talking oh my gosh, you have to overdose on vitamin B12 every time you come in their presence, because these people just drain you, and you dread, literally dread meeting with them. I've had some clients that I look at the calendar, I'm like, oh God, them today? Oh my gosh, right? I feel I feel a sickness coming on, right? The not so perfect client, these people make you question your calling. They make you wonder, man, am I really supposed to do this? Listen, folks, I've had some people that I've worked with that, it doesn't matter how many people believe that I'm a great coach or great at what I do. That one negative person totally causes you to question everything. I remember when I was in the church world, and you would be doing some great things, the church is growing, all these people are converting, you get lots of baptisms going on, and 95% of everybody thinks that you're doing just the greatest job in the world. And then you get that one person. I'm talking that one person that has some kind of significance or some kind of influence that says something bad. And all of a sudden it has this ripple effect, and you begin questioning your calling. Like, man, am I supposed to be doing this? Well, maybe they're right. Maybe I do suck, right? This is what a not so perfect client does, is it makes you begin to question yourself. Is this what I'm supposed to do? This is what happens when you get a not so perfect client. A not so perfect client says, you know what? No matter what you do, they're not going to be satisfied. I mean, you could have provided them the greatest coaching and the greatest training in the world. I mean, everybody else is taking the same information and they're blowing it out of the water. Their lives are changed. Their businesses are growing. Everything is transformed, but not them. Because no matter what you do, they're not satisfied. I have a friend of mine, I won't tell you his name, but I don't like going to a restaurant with this guy. Because, we'll go to a nice steakhouse, right? And he'll order his steak like medium. And if it just comes out even like 1 degree more than medium, he's the first person to raise his hand and he's complaining. And then he's griping about it. And he sends it back and they bring it back. And he sends it back and they bring it back. And he sends it back and they bring it back. And then the next time he goes there, he's got to take that out on the waiter or waitress from last time. Now, last time I came here, you guys gave me a terrible steak, and I just want you to know that. And you can't please him. You can't ever please him. Well, see, that's what the not so perfect client does. See, the not so perfect client, no matter what you do, they will not be satisfied, ever, promise you. And then, regardless of what you do, no matter how good of a job you've done, because they're not satisfied, they're the ones who typically speak poor about you. And then you have this cycle. Okay, you have this negative Nelly cycle that begins just sort of working on you, and you begin questioning like, oh my God, is this what I should be doing? You're drained. You're not finding any significance in what you're doing. You're beginning to get burnt out. No matter how much money they paid you or how much money you make, it's just simply not enough. And this is true whether it's the not so perfect client or the not so perfect job or the not so perfect relationship. Okay, regardless of what, many of you guys can find synergy in multiple aspects of life, that when you're just not so perfect in anything, okay, when you're just when you're just in a negative environment in any aspect of life, it just sort of pulls you down. It just sort of drains you, okay? So this is why it's important as entrepreneurs, as people who are building businesses, you cannot start your business by getting the not so perfect client. But here's the problem. The majority of us will go get the not so perfect client because we haven't taken time to define what the perfect client is. And if you haven't taken time to define what the perfect client is, you're just going to leave it up to chance. And I'm telling you that this is too important to leave it up to chance. So what does the perfect client look like? And so I want you to just sort of write this down, follow along. Here's what the perfect client looks like. The perfect client is someone that you can't wait to work with. Man, I get to work with him today. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay? I mean, you just can't wait to get to work. You can't wait to jump on that Skype call. You just can't wait. That's the perfect client. Those are the types of people that bring you energy. These people bring you significance and self-worth. Because why? Because the chemistry is right. They love you. You love them. And because of that, great things are beginning to happen in their life. And great things are beginning to happen in your life. And significance and self-worth are the result. And so when you find significance and self-worth in what you do, then you want to do it more. You want to study more. You want to learn more. You want to be able to help people better when you find significance and self-worth. And these people, the perfect client, beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can get results for them. You know that you can get results for them. Absolutely. No questions asked. You can get it. Why? Because they're the perfect client. They're going to listen to you. They're going to implement. See, and here's one of the big keys to finding the perfect client is the perfect client is when they're on the other side of the screen and you're beginning to work with them, okay? Or you're at a coffee shop and you're beginning to give them instruction. These are the people who understand what we call the teacher-student relationship. And here's what I mean by that. I do an entire thorough training on this in the Launch 28 online course. But here's what the teacher-student client is, or the teacher-student relationship. Let's say that you are going to go to college. And it's your first day of school. You got your backpack, you got your laptop. These days you got your iPad Pro and your Apple Pencil. And you walk into the lecture hall and you look around, there's 1,000 people in there. And you go and you find your spot in the lecture hall and you sit down. Then all of a sudden, this old cadre guy with a long beard, smacking gum, very terribly dressed, walks in with the old duffel bag, throws it on the podium, turns on his PowerPoint, tests his mic, clears his throat, and begins speaking. Here's what you don't do. Excuse me, sir. Hello. Hey, you up there. You. Hey, you. Why are you the guy who's going to speak to me today? We don't do that, do we? Why? Because he's the teacher, we're the student. And teachers who establish himself in the role of teacher create a superior, listen to me, they create a superior relationship. And those people who establish themselves as the student, they create the inferior relationship. And you have like this yin and yang thing going on. Teachers teach, students learn. And when students understand that they are the student, they come in with arms open, minds open, and say, give me, teach me, let me learn from you. And then when you teach them, they take the information that you give them, they apply it, and therefore their lives are changed. That's the powerful thing about a teacher-student relationship. And students will listen to their teachers. Teachers have influence and impact over their students. I'll show you that in just a minute. And there is a powerful dynamic. Well, the perfect client understands that you are the teacher, okay? They will listen to you, they will implement what you teach, and therefore they will get results. And because they get results, then they will refer you happily. They will refer you happily. Okay, I've had the privilege of working with literally several hundred people over the last couple hundred days, and almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody we've been able to help. We've been able to get results for, we've been able to establish a teacher-student relationship with, and almost everybody, we come in and we're like, man, I can't wait to work with them, okay? That's what I love about these trainings. I cannot wait for Monday at 10 o'clock. When I get to jump on here, I get to teach. Why? Because I know that, throughout the course of the week, hundreds, if not thousands of people are going to watch this training. They're going to be able to take it, learn it, implement, and get results. I love that. To me, that is awesome. To me, that's one of the greatest things about doing what I do. I love that. And we've been able to almost get results for almost everybody that we come in contact. And so what I love is like you'll go to a public forum, like a Facebook group or whatever, and almost like if somebody wants something, almost all of my students will go and they'll refer me happily, okay? Which is a really incredible position to be in, okay? When you get results for people, they refer you happily. When you don't get results for people, then they talk bad about you. They talk negatively about you, okay? But here's what's beautiful, is you want that ratio between people referring you and people talking bad about you to be like 100 to 1. Okay, 100 to 1. This past week, I had somebody in a forum say some not so nice things about me. Okay, which is fine because we don't please everybody. We don't get 100% results on everybody. But what I just sort of felt honored was throughout the course of that negative comment, like 100 of you came and said, "Well, that's not the Chad I know. I mean, this guy's changed my life. This guy's got me results." And hundreds of people commented on this really, 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 really long thread. So eventually this person pulled the post because it wasn't getting the result that he wanted. And see, that's what happens when you get results for people. They become happy, and when they become happy, they refer you. And that's what you want. You want like 100 to 1. Now, you're only going to get that if you understand how to gain, train, and retain the perfect client and how to fire the not so perfect client. Okay, so I want to jump in here, and I want to give you a little bit of training on this. And here's what you have to know. What you have to know is the perfect clients typically come from a warm to hot audience and are rarely strangers. Now get this, okay? The perfect clients typically come from a warm to hot audience and are rarely strangers. In other words, you don't pay Facebook for a perfect client. And I'll show you how this works its way out here in a minute. But you don't pay Facebook to get you a perfect client, okay? When you pay Facebook for traffic, it's just sort of a crapshoot. You do your job to get what we call the perfect audience, but you don't know if they're going to become the perfect client. And I want to talk with you a little bit about that. The perfect client typically comes from a warm to hot audience and are rarely strangers. I want to go back to my church days, way back in the day, when I used to work at a church. And when I worked at a church and I was leading that church, I had an audience or a congregation, as they called it. Okay. And depending on where I was in my career, I had a congregation as low as like 300 or 400 people and as high as a couple thousand people, just depending on where we were. But we typically had, several hundred, sometimes thousand people on the roll. And that role created my audience. So in other words, they were the ones who said, I identify with this particular church. Okay. And a lot of people would come and listen to me speak. Why? Just because it was their church. It had nothing to do with me. They were just an audience, okay? They were just an audience. They were just coming because it was their church. Some people came because they liked me. Some people came because it was convenient, okay? Some people came because of that. Some people came because of particular outreaches or marketing campaigns or promotions that we did. People would come and they comprised the audience. So what happens is in the Facebook world, we pay money to acquire an audience. And so marketers will tell you, you need to create what we call a target audience, okay? A niche. You have to create a niche and you have to go after that target audience. But you have to still remember it's an audience. It's a congregation. It's comprised of multiple people, multiple personalities with people at different levels in their maturation level of where they are in their business. They're just strictly an audience, okay? But an audience is wide. An audience is broad. In my church, I had a huge audience, but I wasn't going to hire every one of them. I didn't want to spend every day with them. I wasn't going to work with them all the time. They all didn't bring me significance. They all didn't bring me self-worth. They all didn't bring me satisfaction. In fact, a lot of times, many of them drained me, but they were still my audience. They were still in my niche, still in my target. And so what you've got to do is you have to understand that there's a difference between an audience and a client. There's a difference between your perfect target audience that you're going to reach out to and you're going to market to, and then those rare people that you're going to actually take their money from and become their audience. And I want to show you this on the screen, okay? Here are the 4 different levels, and I just came up with this. There's probably the informal audience, okay? The informal audience or the informal client. These are people that find you online, but they're not committed to you. Okay. These are people like all the time with me. Yeah. They'll find a video. I got a text message from Facebook message today from a stranger. I didn't even know who they were, and said, hey, I saw your video online. I thought it was really awesome. Perhaps we can talk about doing business together. Okay. That's an informal audience. Okay. These are people that it's traffic I don't control. They just found me on the interweb, but they're not committed to me. But I have an informal relationship. So I want you to see the base word of informal. I inform these people. And because I strictly inform them, I have an informal relationship. Now watch this. But as I move on, then I move to the next tier, which is a little bit different. This is my influential audience. These are people that learn from me, but they're not paying me. Okay, they learn from me, but they're not paying me. They may be in one of my Facebook groups. They may watch my coaching. They're probably watching right now online. Perhaps they've opted into a lead magnet. Perhaps they're in my email database and they're getting nurturing emails from me. So they learn from me, but they aren't paying me. Now look at the key word here. Okay, look at this key word. This is the type of relationship that I have with them. I influence them. Okay, so the informal crowd, I simply inform them. The influential crowd, and I think I misspelled that. The influential crowd, I influence them. Okay, so I have influence over them, but not crazy influence. Okay, I lead them. They're sort of part of my tribe, so to speak. Okay, but they're probably not ponying out any money. So I have the ClickFunnels Design Academy, and we got 85. I think our group is now up to like 130, 140 people that I influence. I have influence over, but they're not paying me. They're not giving me any cash, but I still influence them. I have the Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy. They're paying me a little bit of money, but not a lot of money. It's not super significant. I'll show you that in a minute. But there's a lot of people in that Facebook group that aren't paying me that I just strictly have influence over. Okay. I can teach them, I can help them, I can grow them, but not significant. The third level then is the impactful, okay? Okay, this is the impactful audience. Now, what do I do with impactful people? I impact these people, okay? These are people who pay me, but they're not dependent upon me. In my Launch Fuel Online Coaching Academy, these people pay somewhere between $29 and $49 a month, okay? But they're not dependent upon me. They're just getting knowledge and information from me. Okay, so in other words, I'm a resource and they're draining information from the resource, okay, but it may, it's not really helping. Somebody just sent me a text and said, you misspelled influential. I know I did. Thank you. The person who just sent me that, by the way, her name is Michelle. Michelle, you should put something in the comments here, because she's a kick-ass copywriter, and some of you need some help with your copy. You should hire her. She's really good. She used to work for me. We did a bunch of projects together. She's incredible. So Melissa, put your stuff in here, because I want people to be able to click on it and find you, and then we'll figure out how to spell influential later. Okay. So the third audience is my impactful group. These are people who pay me, but they're not dependent upon me. Okay. And so because of that, it doesn't matter if these are the perfect clients. So the first three audience, they don't have to be the perfect client. They just have to be my target audience. Okay. They just have to be the ripe people. Okay. Notice what I said, not the right, but the ripe, R-I-P-E. They have to be the ripe people. They have to be people that I can inform, I can influence, and I can impact, probably for zero to little money. They'll do well by me, and if they do well enough, then what will happen is they'll transform them to my client. So the first three may be customers, but they're not my client. Okay, a client is, now watch this, they're important. Now watch what I do. Then look at the base word of important. I import something into them. I import what is here and what is here into them. Okay, and so because I import something into them, these are people who pay on me, these are people who pay me and they rely upon me. Are you following me? These people pay me and they rely on me. So as I import my knowledge and my heart and my emotion and my passion to them, they rely upon me. Okay, they're relying that I will get them results. Okay, this is an important relationship for them, and it's an important relationship on me, because just as much as they rely on me for success, I rely upon them for significant satisfaction and income. So this is an incredible relationship right here. This is an important relationship. Are you with me? So you are importing something to them, and they are importing something back to you. It should be a congenial relationship. This is probably the most powerful relationship of them all. So in our business, we have people that we inform, we have people that we influence, we have people that we impact, and then we have people that we import something to. Now, in my business, I've got, I think, 17 people that I'm coaching right now. Okay, that we have an important relationship with. Okay, where I import something to them, they import something back to me. We're with each other for a significant amount of time. This is truly a relationship. At this particular level, it is super, super, super important. Listen to me. It's super important that you get the perfect client. Now, here's some questions to ask the perfect client. Okay, some questions that you need to ask the perfect client. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. Number one, you have to know, and we're going to get into this in just a minute, but you have to know, what are their main problems? Okay. What's the main problem? What's the main thing that they have going on? Can you solve this? This is a huge deal. Can you solve this? How? Everybody say how. How do they want to be helped? And what does success look like to them? These are 4 incredible questions to ask when working with the perfect client. Now, here's what you have to know. If you're incongruent on any of these responses, you are not going to satisfy them. If you're incongruent on any of them, you are not going to satisfy them. Now, you can help them. You can get results for them. You can make a significant difference in their life, but you're not going to satisfy them. These people that you don't have answers to those 4 questions, you literally could have done the best bang-up job in the history of the world. You actually could have gotten incredible results for them, more than you have any other client, but because you did it incongruently with them, you will not satisfy them. So what are their main problems? Okay, what are their main problems? And this is huge, okay? And I've got a worksheet that I'll give you at the end of our talk today where you can work through this and you'll be able to answer this, okay? But you've got to know what their main problems are. How does it manifest itself in pain? And then can you solve this? See, a lot of us know what the problem of our perfect client is, but we may not be gifted, talented, or experienced enough to know how to solve it. Why? Because many of us have learned one way of doing business. Many of us have learned one way of solving an issue or solving a problem. But because problems are not cookie cutter, your cookie cutter solution will not work for them. So you've got to be diverse enough in your mind and in your experience to be able to diagnose what's going on in their life or on in their business, prescribe a proper solution, and then not only prescribe a proper solution, but create a path for them to be able to be successful. You have to know whether you've got the mojo to be able to solve this or not. Then here's another one. How do they want to be helped? So we all have different personalities. Okay, we all do. Ladies, I'm wondering if you can relate to this. Ladies, have you ever been in a relationship and you went to a guy and for your significant other and you were just lamenting about your day? And really all you wanted was for him to listen to you. That's it. Really, that's all you wanted. Was you just wanted to vent, him to listen to you, him to hug you and just say, oh, baby, that's going to be okay. That's all you wanted, right? All you wanted was that, okay? That's how you wanted to be helped. But because Guy is a Mr. Fix-It guy, right? What he didn't help you like that at all. What he did was he went in and he solved all your problems. Well, you need to do this and 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 you need to do this. And if I were you, I would do this. And you're like, dude, I didn't want all that. Now, was that information helpful? Sure, it was helpful. But you didn't want to be helped like that. And so because of that, you've got to be able to understand, how does your perfect client want to be helped? You have to be able to know that going into the relationship, and you have to be able to diagnose that and self-diagnose that a lot. And you have to be able to ask your potential client this, your perfect client this, so you can speak their language. It's like a relationship. Everybody has a love language. You need to learn their love language, and you need to speak it drastically, and you need to speak it often. You need to wear that language out. How does your perfect client want to be helped, and help them that way? Don't help them the way that you're necessarily good at, help them that way. And then finally, what does success look like to them? So you may be able to have provided incredibly huge amounts of help to them. You've actually probably been able to get results for them, maybe even better than any other client. But if the results that you get them do not marry the results that they wanted, then success was not the result for them. You may have looked at it as successful, but they didn't look at it as successful. And because of that, they're not going to be satisfied. Okay. So these are some questions that you have to ask the perfect client. Okay. You have to ask the perfect client. So in the informal relationship where you're just simply informed, it doesn't matter. Why? Because if you're not helping them, they're just going to go away. In the influential relationship where people are learning from you, but they're not paying you, it doesn't matter if you're solving their problems perfectly. Why? Because they're just going to go away. And they're not going to speak badly about you. Why? Because they don't have anything invested in you. Okay? You're just going to be another guy or another gal in the information marketing or coaching or Facebook ads or whatever you do. You're just going to be another guy or gal in that world. Okay? But your solutions don't resonate with them, so they're just going to go away. Okay? They're not going to recommend you, but they're not going to talk bad about you. But in the impactful world, now at level 3 here, things began getting a little bit more dicey, okay? You got to begin getting the right people at the impactful level. These people they pay you, but they're not dependent upon you, okay? They may not pay you a lot. They only may pay you a little bit. But what I've learned sometimes is the people who pay you the least are the ones you expect the most. So you really need to be getting the perfect, not the perfect client, but the client that highly likes you. Okay, it needs to be right here, because if not, they're gonna talk bad about you, and you're not gonna get results for them. And then what good is that? But when you bring people into that 4th level, you need to vet your clients drastically, because you need to have the perfect client, because these are the people you spend time with. These are the people that just as much information that you give them, they're going to come back and they're going to give it to you, and you will have influence over them. They have influence over you. They have influence over your mood. You have influence over their mood, and you take them home with you whether you want to or not. It's so important that you have the perfect client, okay, that you have it. You have to have it. Now, here's what you have to know. How do you know how to get the perfect client? Okay. Well, to me, it all starts with your content or your message. Okay. It all starts with your message. And the more refined and narrow you can create your target audience. Remember the audience we were talking about? Okay. All those people that come and, the 4 different levels of audience, the more narrow you can focus that, the greater your chances are of being able to gain the perfect client. You can actually specifically narrow your focus so much that the people who aren't your perfect client many times will just go away. They won't want to work with you. But if you're broad in your content and you're broad with your audience, then what's going to happen is you're going to put lots of people, the good ones and the bad ones, into your database. And remember, most of your perfect clients come from your warm to hot audience. So you're going to actually warm up an audience that you don't want to be with. So it's so important that way back at the very beginning, when you're working with strangers, that you specifically narrow your content. Therefore, you only get the right people in your audience. So as the cream of the crop begin to rise and those people come and you begin spending a significant amount of time with them, that they're the right person. So the more refined and narrow you create your target audience, the more specifically focused. Now, here's what you need to do to get the perfect client. You need to ask yourself some questions, okay? These are questions for you, not for the client, okay? I want you to understand this, okay? You as the coach, you as the entrepreneur, you have to ask yourself the question, if I'm going to spend significant amount of time with people, what type of person do I want to spend time with? This is incredibly important. Don't leave this up to chance. You take the bull by the horns and you make the determination who you want to spend time with, and then you eliminate, sometimes even eradicate, that's a good word, those negative people from your life. You let them stick around if you want to in the lower 3 levels, but you do not let them get to the higher level. Yeah, but they got money. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money they have. They're going to bring you headache. They're going to bring you heartache. And you're going to end up getting burnt out. You're going to end up bringing that crap home to your family. You're going to be taking it out on your kids, and your kids are going to end up, or your significant other is going to end up getting the brunt of their money, their negative, bad money. You don't want it. Get rid of them. Eradicate them. So you ask yourself the questions, okay? And here's how you do it. Okay, you ask yourself the question, so you use demographics. How old is my perfect client? Okay, give yourself an age range. What do you do best with? How much money do they make? What education level do they make? Does any of that matter? Okay, so you have to listen to me. I'm going to say something you're going to think is controversial, but it's not controversial. You have to discriminate like heck right here. I'm not talking about discriminating between somebody's, color or somebody's, gender. I'm not saying that. Although sometimes you do need to discriminate based on gender, because sometimes, guys, you're not very good with helping the ladies, and you're targeting the men. And sometimes, ladies, you're targeting the women, or vice versa. Okay, so it's okay to segment your perfect client based on gender if you need to. If you have a product that is more beneficial to a male or more beneficial to a female, but you need to positively discriminate right here. Not a negative discrimination, but a positive discrimination. You got to know who you're best with, and then you have to go after only those people and use demographics such as age, income, and education level. Okay. So for me, I do better with a more intellectual client. Okay. I do better with someone who's a go-getter. I do better with someone who's a self-starter. I do better with somebody who wants to change the world. I do better with somebody who just knows what they know and they want to go get it. And what they need is they need somebody who's been to the mountaintop just to give them some guidance. That's who I do better with. Okay. What I don't do very well with is I don't do well with people who are lazy. I don't do well with people who aren't really intelligent. I don't do well with people who've not ever made money in their life before. I just don't do well with them. There's nothing wrong with those people. It's just our personalities will probably clash. So I know who my perfect client is, and that's who I want to go after. Then you can use psychographic information such as behaviors, hobbies, and values to begin to whittle this down. And this is so important because as you begin building your tribe, these 2 layers right here, Facebook will reward you drastically for. Okay. If you can narrow in on your age, and you can narrow in on your income, and you can narrow in on the education level, and you can narrow in, oh, I'm sorry, you're not even showing your slides. If you can narrow in on your age and on your income and on your education level, and you can narrow in on their behaviors and their hobbies and their values, if you can narrow in on that, you can actually run Facebook ads to these people, and you will have a much greater chance at creating what we call the perfect audience. And remember, when you create the perfect audience, the majority of your perfect clients come out of a warm to hot audience. So if you can get the right audience, chances are you then will get the cream of the crop, the rise to the top, and you can get the right client. Super important, super important. You can ask, what is their biggest struggle and pain as it relates to their topic? Now, the reason why this is important is because if you know their problem and you know the pain, I'm talking emotional pain, physical pain, financial pain, whatever pain, relationship pain, whatever pain they feel, if you know what their biggest struggle and pain is and how it relates to their topic, then you can figure out whether you have a solution for it or not. And if you have a solution for it, then you can charge them money and you can help them. If you don't know what the solution could be, don't take their money. Stay away from them. They're not your perfect client. They're going to cause you hell later on. Trust me. Okay? Then you got to move to and answer this question. These are questions for you as the coach. Why should they listen to you? Really, why should they listen to you as opposed to your competitor? So in other words, what competitive advantage do you have that you can relay to them that will ultimately help them more than your competitor? Now, listen to me, there's always somebody better than us, okay? Okay, if you're a coach, there's always a better coach. If you're a graphic designer, there's always a better graphic designer. If you're a funnel builder, there's always a better funnel builder than you, okay? So there are going to be people who are better than you, but just because they're better doesn't mean they're right. Why are you a right fit for them? You have to know it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Well, hey, here's what my experience is. Here's what I've done before. I've walked in your shoes before. Okay, I've got other clients that look very similar to you. Okay, I've got other clients who want similar funnels. I've got other clients who've got similar Facebook ads. I've got other clients that fit your mold. I've been able to get results for them. Therefore, I think, can't guarantee, don't ever guarantee results. I think I can get results for you. Because of that, this is why you should listen to me. Okay, and so you can beyond a shadow of a doubt, you can say you should listen to me because. And when you can answer the question that you should listen to me because, then what's going to be able to happen is you can go in with them confidence and say, you are my perfect client. Now, this is probably the most important slide of the day, this one right here. Who is not your target audience? Who should you not be working with? Okay, that is just as important to know who you're not working with as it is who you are working with. That is a huge question to ask. Who should I not be working with? If you've ever dated, you know that there are certain personality types that you've gone on dates with that immediately was like oil and water. And so anytime you run into people like that, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I want to run as fast as I can away from them, okay? You know who you don't want to date. You may not know who you want to date, but you know who you don't want to date, okay? And so you run away from those people. This is incredibly important, finding the perfect client, okay? Who have you had bad experiences with before? What personality types don't mesh with you, okay? Who's going to give you more heartache than it's worth? Okay, you'll be able to identify those. You'll be able to figure that out. And you need to have a list of who you don't want to work with. And so when somebody comes and they come to you and they match one of those negative Nellies, that needs to serve as a filter for you, and you need to get rid of them and you need to refer them. Okay, remember I said I'm going to teach you how to gain, train, and retain the perfect client, but you also need to know how to fire the bad ones. And sometimes the easiest way to fire the bad ones is by not hiring them at all. But you need to have some people in your referral list that you can refer them to. Because here's what I've learned. If I don't have someone that I can refer what I would deem as a negative client for me to, but could be positive for somebody else, if I don't have a network of people that I can refer to, they bug the hell out of me. Okay? I got a comment on the ripoff report from someone that I deemed as not my perfect target audience. But I didn't have anybody that I could refer them to. And so therefore I didn't take them as a client. And I took them on the onboarding process. I did a little bit of work with them. I thought they were going to be a fit, but it became crystal clear to me in the onboarding process that they were a bad fit. Well, they blew me up negatively online. Why? Because I didn't have somebody to refer them to. See, if I had someone to refer them to, I could have said, hey, Joe, call him Joe. Hey, Joe, you and I are probably not going to be able to work together. We're probably not a good match for each other. But hey, my friend Johnny is an incredible coach, and he works with people in your genre all the time. He gets great results for people like that, and I'd love to refer you to him. Okay. In fact, I'll make a connection for you. See, if I can make that referral, then what happens is I've been able to fire them or eradicate them, so to speak, from my life in a positive manner. But if I can't refer them, they're just going to get upset at me. They're going to think I'm being prejudiced, or that I'm being, elitist, or, whatever I'm going to be. And they're going to blow you up and talk negatively to you online. Even though we've never taken any money from them, whatever, they will still talk negatively about you. So you have to know who your target audience is not. It's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. So a couple things on this, and then I'm going to be happy to Ross says, did you just quote jump around? I have no idea what jump around is. Ross, is that like a band or something? I don't know what that is. I'll take some questions. If you guys are live and you want to give me some questions, I'd be happy to take those. I've just got a couple more things that I want to be able to work with you on this particular topic. So how do you get the perfect clients? We've already said that it goes all the way back, and it starts with your audience, okay, with your perfect audience. But you have to know that the audience is broad. Okay, the audience is broad. Okay, just because you have an audience or a congregation, just because you have people listening to you, doesn't mean they're necessarily right. So you got to go back and you have to start with this particular audience. You have to start and say, okay, who are the people that are my informal group that I just informed? Who are the ones that I influence? Who are the ones that I impact? And then impact and important, you got to make sure they're the right people. But you don't even want to start informing people. You don't want to get people to this level right here if they're not right. So the way that you get them right is by discriminating the heck out of them before. Everybody say before you let them into your email database. You need to guard your email database with your life. You are not trying to get a large list. You are trying to get a right list. Guard your email database with your life. Guard it. Protect it. Don't let everybody in. Don't just put an opt-in out there and just open it up to everybody and let anybody and everybody in. It's not what you want to do. This is why in the give method, I teach a lot that opt-ins should be optional, okay? When you give something away, make it optional that they opt in. They can still get the content from you, but make it optional that they opt in. Why? Because only the people who really want to get something from you are going to opt in. And if they don't believe that you can influence them or impact them or import something great in their life, they're not going to opt in. Fine. They can stay out. Why? Because you want to guard your database with your life. Only get the right people in. So how do you gain them? You get the right people in your database. You inform them. You influence them. You impact them. And before too long, they're going to put some money down, and they're going to allow you to import into their heart and soul something that is valuable, and they will pay you significant money for you. How do you train them? You train them by asking those key questions. You train them on asking them the questions of, like, what are your main problems? What are you struggling with? Can you solve it? So in other words, do you have a system for this? If you teach them what you know, is it going to help them? And then you ask, how do they want to be helped? What's their language? And then what does success look like to them? And if you know the answers to that, you can put a training module together that will train them. So how do you gain them? By getting the right people into your email database. How do you train them? By answering these 4 questions and coming up with a system that will solve these 4 questions. And then how do you retain them? Okay, you retain them by getting results. That's end all be all. How do you retain them? You get results. And when you get results for people, then what happens is it creates a relationship to you. It almost, you don't want a codependent relationship because that's really bad, okay? But you want a reliant relationship. Way over here, you want a relationship where people rely on you to help them get results. They need your wisdom. They need your knowledge. They need your understanding to get where they want to go. They need that, but they're not codependent upon it. So in other words, a good coach can import information into them, but give them a system where, if followed, they're eventually going to be able to do it on your own. Why? Because after about 3 months, you want to cut them loose. You want to get rid of them. Why? Because after a while, this little slide that I've got on here, after a while, after you inform them and influence them and impact them and give them something that's important, after a while, you begin going the other way. You've imported so much to them that now you begin going backwards. Now you're strictly impacting them because of the law of diminishing returns. This is what happens. Then you begin influencing them, and then you just simply begin informing them. But yet they're paying you a lot of money, and they're down here at this level, and you're not being able to help them as much as they think that you should be able to help them. Okay, so you've got to be able to cut them loose. And to me, 90 days is the maximum you ever want to work with somebody. If you haven't helped them after 90 days, cut them loose. Just literally cut them loose. Just be done with them. Okay? So that's how you gain, train, and retain, which I think is a super cool little deal here. That's how you gain, train, and retain your perfect client. Now, what happens when you gain, train, and retain them? They provide you income. They provide you significance. They provide you satisfaction. That's what they give to you. And in return, you give them results.